The sun, a searing eye in the parched sky, beat down upon the scarred earth, baking the air until it shimmered with an almost hallucinatory heat. Beneath this relentless gaze, a world unseen by the casual observer pulsed with an ancient, ceaseless conflict. It was not the struggle for sustenance that drove these legions, though hunger was a familiar shadow to all life. For the Formica Dominatus, the very breath of their existence was drawn from a different wellspring: power. Their tunnels, intricate like a cartographer's fever dream, were dug not for food or fungi, but for strategy and control of the subterranean high ground. Each foraging party moved not to find provisions, but to gather intelligence, locate weaknesses, and stake footholds in their endless quest for supremacy. Their antennae searched not for nectar, but for pheromonal signatures of rival empires. They sensed the tremor of approaching threats and the whispers of collapsing defenses. A vibration ran through the soil, not geological, but the unified rhythm of countless limbs mobilized. This was no harvest. This was conquest. The air grew heavy with the scent of willpower, stripped bare of all else, revealing the primal, terrifying elegance of domination. This was not survival. This was empire, sculpted at the scale of sand, echoing every war in nature's long memory. Dr. Eris Thorne, eyes fixed with the intensity of a man on the verge of discovery, adjusted the focus on the research outpost's microscopic camera. The image displayed a vast, ordered labyrinth beneath the Chihuahua Desert. Funded by a mysterious grant from the Department of Defense, Thorne's team had spent months studying Formica dominatus, an ant species recently discovered and already wrapped in disturbing mystery. Unlike typical ants, these did not forage for food. Their entire structure revolved around a singular goal: domination. Anya Sharma, the team's lead entomologist, spoke quietly. The resource density here is negligible. There's barely enough to support any colony, yet they're multiplying. And the aggression. She trailed off, pointing to the live feed of two mandibles locked, limbs torn, all for territory with no value except denial to the enemy. They're not fighting for food, Eris said. They're fighting for space, for control, to keep others out. This is territorial supremacy. He pulled up maps, highlighting choke points. They're fortifying strategic locations, not for sustenance, for empire. As weeks passed, things grew stranger. Single ants approached rival colonies like envoys, not to negotiate but to gauge strength. These meetings often became lethal duels. The victor signaled dominance through complex pheromonal dances. Some colonies laid sieges, not starving enemies, but overwhelming them with numbers, forcing them into open terrain, where they were annihilated. The victors didn't eat them. They cleared the remains, took over the tunnels, and rebuilt. Dr. Kenji Tanaka, the team's sociobiologist, reviewed footage one night. It's like abstract warfare. Success is not biomass gained, but rivals crushed and territory secured. There's brutal efficiency, specialized castes for war, for engineering, for expansion. The queen just makes more soldiers. Endless. He paused. But how does this make sense evolutionarily if it's not about resources? Eris leaned forward, eyes wide. What if they've evolved beyond food? What if domination itself is their sustenance? Maybe crushing enemies fuels their biology. Or maybe holding land, even barren land, produces something we can't detect. Some micro-resource, or maybe control is the goal. Then came the invasion. A third, massive F. Dominatus colony rose from beneath a distant rock formation. It wasn't a skirmish. It was war. Colonies A and B, once rivals, seemed to sense the threat. Their scouts moved urgently, pheromonal trails crisscrossing in what looked like panic. The ants didn't ally from trust but necessity, uniting just long enough to fight a greater enemy. The battle was epic. Millions of ants clashed across the desert. Their amplified mandibles created a chorus of snaps and cracks. Dust filled the air, churned by countless legs. The ground trembled under the sheer volume of warfare. It was not survival of the fittest, but a battle for dominance alone. Eris watched in horror. These ants weren't just surviving. They were thriving in conquest. Their need wasn't food, but control. And in them, he saw a reflection of us, of humans, fighting wars not for shelter or hunger, but for ideologies, boundaries, control. Power for power's sake. Colony A and B, bloody but determined, finally pushed back Colony C. The victory was costly. Millions lost, tunnels ruined. But it was a win. And as the surviving queens began to rebuild, it wasn't food they sought. It was stronger borders, better defense, preparation for the next war. Eris understood then. Formica Dominatus were not just ants. They were a mirror, a primal force, unbound by species, a warning carved into the sand that conquest itself may be the deepest instinct of life.